Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back. It has been quite a while, I know, I'm sorry, but here we are again. Today we're going to have a look at Fieldrunners 2, indie tower defense game that originated on iOS. Which means yes, this is another indie tower defense game, and yes, this is an iOS port, but I will go through all the flaws and the merits of this game all in due time. First off, how the game looks. The game looks absolutely fantastic. It looks quite nice, and seeing as how it was ported from mobile device, it's been blown up quite nicely. What I don't like, however, is that the UI is a bit clunky. As you can see, all the buttons are just massive and clearly built for a touchscreen device. Stuff like the arrows here in this section they're just not necessary. You can't swipe through the selection with your mouse, which is a bit weird. And I think if they had gone for more traditional style when porting it, just have a list of all your units on the side, click and then it gives you more information, it'd make it a lot more functional. So while the game does look crisp, the UI bugs me a little bit. So the game starts off on this map screen and you get to pick one of the few levels you start with. Finishing that level will let you unlock more levels, and then you sort of move on from there. Levels itself can be incredibly varied. You normally get tower defense that is either pre-built paths, so all the units walk along that line and get to the end and you build towers on either side of the road, or they are build wherever you want. You have to build a maze and force them to stay in your maze long enough to do enough damage to them. Fieldrunners, on the other hand, is both and then some. You get both those traditional modes, and the mode varies according to the map. You can't pick a map and change the mode. You get weird modes as well, where you have to sort of get a certain number of kills before the time runs out, or puzzle maps, and the puzzle maps are quite creative. One of the maps I played, they put a mine on the map and sent a unit at you, just a single unit, and you had enough money for one tower. And what you did was you built the tower in a position that offset the unit so you walks onto the mine, and that's how you beat the level. That's how you beat the round in any case. And it gets really complicated, and eventually they sort of show you that you have to exploit the AI's pathing. So doing stuff like building the tower while he's actually walking on it will force him to take the really long route, and then you have to do this with minimal amount of towers built because you don't have enough money. I think all the additional levels, the odd ones, the ones that break tradition, especially the puzzle maps, were incredibly creative and definitely fun, but I don't think there are enough of them. Levels have 3 options and they go up in difficulty each step. Being the first difficulty gives you 1 star, being the second gives you 2 stars, and being the third gives you 3 stars. Stars go towards unlocking towers and stuff, and it's basically the game's version of progression. The game itself can be very difficult, especially on the higher difficulties, and the main reason for this I found was money management. If you did not spend your money wisely enough, you would fail, and fail hard. I find that there are 2 other classes of tower defenses, where on one hand you want to build loads of towers, and the more towers you have, the better it is. That's the way it's balanced. And on the other hand, you have tower defenses where you build just a couple of towers, but then upgrade them as much as you can, and they'll sort out the entire wave for you. Fieldrunners 2 leans heavily towards the latter. You need the strong towers, you need a few of them, and you need them to be upgraded as much as possible. The first tower you get, the one you can see there, where I have 3 of them already on the field. While upgrading them is really cheap and simple, about halfway through the round you find out that a maxed out tower has no effect on units. They just don't do enough damage. Like, you could have 15 of them lined up in a row, all maxed out, and they would not take out one of the normal units running at you, just because of how much health they have coming at you. In that sense, you have to learn the game. You have to learn what all the towers do and in what situations which tower would be best. You can progress with whatever tower is about halfway through the round, and then eventually they'll overrun you and you get swarmed because you haven't been spending your money wisely and you haven't picked the correct towers. You have your basic towers, like you have your Gatling, and then you have your rocket towers. But then you get really creative towers, like the laser tower that has a really short activation radius, so it can only fire within that range. But once it fires, it hits everything in that one line, which is wicked. And this is one of the first really fun towers you get to play with, and you get loads more. You get plasma towers that, if they hit each other, they make each other fire twice, and then you get beam towers that you place them next to each other and they form a field. Anything passes through that takes damage. Most of them are really situational, but you get the option of picking them and picking out your set before you go into battle. You also earn coins in addition to stars at the end of every round, and coins, like stars, are used to unlock towers, but unlike stars, they can be spent towards power-ups, stuff like rewinding the level 3 rounds back, or buying mines, or poison or bombardments and stuff like that. Stuff to help you out, and they're consumable, so once you use them they're gone, and you'll have to spend the coins to unlock them once more. Unlocking towers with coins, however, seems to take a very, very long time. You get roughly 50 coins per game, never more than 100, depending on how well you do, and certain towers cost around 3,000. Some of them are reasonable, like they're 600 to 1,000, which is fine, but then when it comes to a couple thousand, that's when it gets ridiculous. And I believe this is another remnant from the iOS port where you could purchase coins for real money. It's a microtransaction, and even in the PC version you can do stuff like tweeting and sending out a message on Facebook which gives you more coins, and stuff like that should not be in there. It's a fully fledged game, it's not a mobile game anymore when they're selling it for $10. I'm not playing very well here just so I can speed up the video a bit, because playing the whole round would take forever. Levels in the game take ages to complete. They can go on for quite a while. Difficulty doesn't change that, so you always got about 50 to 70 rounds. It's not a good or bad thing, but it can be incredibly frustrating when you get towards the end and then you get swarmed and overrun. Right then, my last and final gripe with the game is again to do with the UI. The tower buttons on the bottom right, you can see, they give you no indication of what they do or the stats they have. Your only option to find out what they are is to build them. Click on it, click on the little question mark, and then it'll sort of inform you on what all the exact stats are. While picking towers in the pre-game menu, they can be incredibly vague on what the tower actually does. Like for the B tower, they just said it's like the rocket tower but better or something like that, and I don't know, I'd much rather prefer them tell me what it does and how much damage and the splash radius and all sorts of stuff, just stats. In any case, I don't feel the UI is as functional as it could be. It would definitely work really well on iOS on touchscreen device, and that's how it's built. But for example, why doesn't hovering over the icon in the bottom right give me the stats about it? Now don't get me wrong, the game is fun, it can be really fun, really challenging, but I do believe the port could have been cleaned up quite a bit more, seeing as how they're charging about $10 or £7 for it, while the iOS versions go for $5 for the HD version and $1 for the normal version. Anyway, those are my thoughts on the game. It's definitely a fun game to play, it's definitely challenging and it looks awesome, but it is a little rough around the edges. The devs were also kind enough to send me a couple extra copies of the game, so I'll be giving those away to you guys, and all you have to do is just pop down to the description below and find out how to enter. It's all listed down there. Alright guys, I'll see you around next time. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe and leave a comment and all that stuff. It does really help me out.